My first ever experience with the Splinter Cell series was the first game, Stealth Action Redefined. I was very young when I played it on the original Xbox, and if I'm being totally honest, I did not understand it. I remember seeing the cover and thought, this game looks awesome. Seeing Sam covered in the shadows, you can see the iconic night vision goggles, and I played it for about 30 minutes and thought, this game is for people with big brains. I had no idea what I was doing, so I dropped it. And years later, my next entry into the series wouldn't be until Splinter Cell Conviction. And while I did enjoy it, I remember never finishing it. And I was a little lost on the story since I didn't even know the characters aside from Sam. Then I never touched another Splinter Cell game again, until now, with Splinter Cell Double Agent.
I used to hunt terrorists. Now I am one.
You have a little problem.
I used to take orders.
Finish your mission.
Now I execute them. I become a double agent. Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell Double Agent.
I will preface, this will have heavy spoilers, and is more of just a general conversation about playing Double Agent for the first time, rather than a full review. Double Agent is about Sam Fisher getting off a mission, finding out that his daughter has been killed, and he's trying to now wrestle with this idea that he has nothing to lose. So the organization he works with, the NSA, decides to give him a mission and send him to jail to become part of this terrorist organization known as the JBA. Now, right off the bat, the idea of playing as a double agent already sounds awesome. I love this concept. Going undercover, making sure that you're appeasing both sides and staying within that frame of mind that if you lose somebody's trust, it will have consequences. It sets the precedent for constant tension throughout the game. Do you lose trust from the NSA, but you build up trust for the JBA, or vice versa? It's this constant tug of war that fits really nicely here with Double Agent's setting. While I do feel it's not completely fleshed out to its potential, I did enjoy the system, but we'll talk more about this trust system later. Next, we're going to talk about the voice acting.
What are we doing here, Lambert?
Our sources indicate some suspicious activity in this area, but keep in mind this is a simple reconnaissance mission only. You can enter the power plant grounds through the water intake at the bottom of the lake. Details on your OPSAT.
Consider it done.
You can count on us, sir.
First and foremost, you just can't beat the gravitas voice for Sam that Michael Ironside brings.
What are you doing out here?
Looking for intruders. Guess that's you.
What about your friends?
He just is Sam Fisher. There's no doubt about that.
Wait, the way up front is now clear. This will be much quicker. Let me go and check.
I repeat, your role is to cover Sam. Hold your position.
John!
John, answer me. Sam jumped through the vent before it closes again.
What do we do about John?
All we can do is pray that he doesn't blow your cover.
The side characters are great too. Emil, Moose,
Listen, Moose.
It's Moss. Get it right or pay the price.
Enrica,
SAR-Ski, you know, the pilot, he didn't make it. If you could get his body out of the infirmary and down to the furnace room before he gets right, I'd really appreciate it.
Piece of cake.
they all play their part pretty well. The bad guy NPCs, however, are fantastic. And one of my favorite things about stealth games is the non-interactivity that you have with NPCs, but they have with each other.
Man, what a view! You gotta come take a look at this.
I'm working here, man, you know? Like you should be.
Work can wait. You gotta see this.
Yeah, whatever. I'm coming. Just shut up already, will you?
When you're trying to sneak around an event or hanging off a rail and you overhear NPCs' conversations, they sound to me like real people. Now, obviously the dialogue was written to either be funny or ridiculous, but I always appreciated that, and here it is in full spades.
What are you doing there, swatting flies?
Well, if I don't practice, I'll get rusty.
So you think those dance moves will help you against a gun?
You just don't get it, do you?
It also does this clever thing where it hints at something within the level when a guard might specifically talk about how their group didn't have enough in the budget for more guards, or maybe you should start sneaking over here because they're going to check out a casino game. So it hints at the player without being so intrusive. It breaks immersion from the game. It's a subtle touch, but when I hear Frank has been struggling with ED and his buddy Pat didn't get enough creamer in his coffee, then I feel a little bad when I have to break their necks.
It's like they don't care if it all falls apart. And we get to weld it back together. At least we're almost done. Hallelujah.
So in Double Agent, stealth is easy enough to understand. You've got this little strap on your back. If you're in the green, you're fully covered. They can't see you unless they use a flashlight or you break cover by making a loud noise. If you're in the yellow, they can definitely see you. And I didn't really utilize this mechanic until probably my second playthrough, where you can really sneak up on somebody and get around if you're fully in the green. Like, yeah, you're good.
Tell me what's going on in the meeting.
Let's just talk about the animations for a moment. When you're climbing, you feel the weight of Sam. He's slow and methodical. He's not flying around like he was in Conversational, even though I did enjoy that game. Every move you have to make in Double Agent feels deliberate. Climbing up over a rail, the way he anchors his foot into the railing to help stabilize him just to get over is just a great visual representation of Sam. Like, he's smart, calculated, and a little bit older, so he's not as nimble, but still very capable. Every ladder you climb, ledge you descend, rope you rappel with, must be done with intent, and knowing you must do this slow animation with precision because the guard is about to turn around, see you, and start blasting definitely adds tension, but the animations are incredible. Also, here's a small note. I appreciated how the NPCs actually look incredibly different. Some are old, some are young, some have different backgrounds, and I really appreciated that because they didn't feel like just copy and pasted a bunch of random NPCs. They actually look different, not fighting the same generic bearded dude that you gutted a minute ago. As for the music to tell a story throughout the level was also well suited for the game. It has this feature where you get close to an enemy, there's this swelling of the music and it gets louder and louder as you get close to an enemy. Which heightens the tension but also lets the player know how close you are.
How'd you get in here?
Musical cues for the game. When an enemy might have spotted you, a flash of music hits your ears to let you know they might have seen you. It's a great and subtle feature.
Yeah, there's only 2 guys at the middle of the control tower.
Another aspect of the game that I really liked was the variety of levels themselves. And we all know how vital variety is in games. Some locations had you stealthily boarding an Arctic ship. Sometimes you were traversing or rappelling down a tall building in Shanghai, and I thought the levels were varied and intricate, and you could kind of explore them in your own way, which I really appreciated. There was like this level of autonomy as soon as you were dropped in a level. There was a few times where I took a different path than what was the intended path, and sometimes it led to a new surprise, and other parts were a little bit more linear, but that's okay, and I didn't mind. Because depending on how you play, the levels can either be short and sweet, or they can be long and methodical. So, if you go for Ghost, or you go for John Wick. Double Agent also feels very cinematic, steering a helicopter to safety, deploying your broken chute, trying to sneak past the spotlight when you're clutching onto the edge of a skyscraper. It all feels thrilling and engaging, and it made me hold on to the controller a little tighter. If anything, it felt like it increased the pace of the game, like ending on a cliffhanger at the end of a chapter. One of the other things about the game that I really appreciated was the interrogation system. Like I said, this is my first dip into the Splinter Cell franchise outside of Conviction, so I've only seen it in the way that almost feels like a set piece.
Looking for me, asshole? No more playing around.
But the way that Double Agent does it, it feels more seamless and immersive to me.
What do you want?
A really good reason not to break your arm.
I know the code to the navigation room.
Boring, but acceptable.
2112.
Where if you grab an enemy, you can interrogate them and find out information about the level that you might have missed out otherwise. Because it doesn't feel like the game is doing it, it feels like I, the player, am doing it.
I recognize you.
Good. And you know what's going to happen if you don't tell me.
It's right over there.
The code.
1403.
Also, going full ghost in a mission and clearing it out without alerting anybody or without killing anybody, to me, is as satisfying as defeating a Dark Souls boss, where it's just this incredible sense of satisfaction. It is very rewarding when you finally defeat the boss that you've been fighting over and over and over again, and you finally learn their attack patterns, you know when to dodge, when to block. The same goes here with Splinter Cell. You can actually play the level over and over and just really nail down where the enemy placement is, when they'll turn their back, when you should grab a pipe to climb here, stealth roll there. It just had some really solid structure and well-designed levels that I really enjoyed, that were rewarding to play, especially multiple times over, and see if I could beat it faster and with more stealth. And there's nothing quite like seeing that 100% stealth rating after a mission. Double Agent comes with dynamic choices, and now we're going to loop back around to the trust system. Anytime you make a choice or a decision, it either increases or decreases the trust within a certain organization that you're trying to maintain. Obviously, if one of the trust meters goes all the way down, it's game over.
You've abused the trust that was given you.
Now, I do wish this system was a little bit more fleshed out, but I actually do think it works here for a Double Agent, because they start the game off incredibly strong with some pretty heavy choices right away.
Here you go.
What do you want me to do with this?
What do you think?
Having to prove yourself to gain trust within these factions constantly brought tension. If you're sneaking in an area in the JBA headquarters you're not supposed to be, and you're spotted, you might lose some of their trust, but gain some trust from the NSA, because you have to enter these areas to complete missions for them, whether it's hacking a computer or bugging a tower. So it's this back and forth that really makes the game compelling. Now, one of the things that I felt like they touched on, maybe not enough, is a character called
I'm Enrica. I'd love to chat, but I'm a little busy.
She is the only female member of the JBA, and Sam and her have this like playful banter, which I really appreciated, because I felt like it gave Sam some levity between the darkness of what he's going through. Considering his daughter just died, he's basically lost everything, and now he's trying to secure himself by being a double agent. And Enrica, to me, was probably one of my favorite characters.
Sam! Oh, you're just full of surprises, aren't you?
I do my best.
You're not cleared to be up here. I'm gonna have to report this, Sam.
Mixing business and pleasure can get tricky.
You're telling me.
On one mission, you have to secure a bomb on a cruise ship. Her and Sam have some good playful banter back and forth with one another.
There's not a lot of cover.
Okay, hang on. Hang on. I think I can...
What are you...
Ha! They won't see you if you swim under that.
Wow.
But I do like this dynamic here, because you basically spend the last two missions with her, and you get to know her a little bit, and she's not exactly all about what the JBA is doing, so that gives her some humanity. And then you have to make the choice on whether to blame her to keep your cover and let her die, or let the bomb go off and let innocent people die.
Enrica, my temper is wild.
I didn't. Emil, I swear, I didn't want to do it, but I would never...
And now to talk about the cons of the game. A couple first notes that I will say that I really noticed about the game is that the controls are bizarre. They are definitely not modern by any means. They may follow the format of the old Splinter Cell games, but I don't know. I'm just going off the basis of what I know from playing this game. You're pressing Y to jump, and I can't really remember the last time I played a game where you pressed Y or triangle to jump. When I had to sit down to think about it, I could recall Devil May Cry or Shadow of the Colossus. Nowadays, you can basically pick up any game, and depending on the type of game it is, you're going to have the same basic layout for most buttons. A is to jump, left trigger to pull out your gun, right trigger to fire. But, you know, these were times of experimentation for the 360 era. Now, it doesn't take too long to get adjusted to the controls. I mean, if you've been a gamer for any number of years, you'll basically be able to pick it up no problem. It does take a little getting used to, but once you do, it's not really an issue. It's just a little jarring at first. Once you get the hang of it, it's not too much of a problem. Honestly, I think my biggest gripe with the game is sometimes the NPC AI is insane. They see through walls, they'll see you when you're not even close to them, and here's one of my biggest complaints is when you throw a sleep grenade and one of their companions falls asleep, they instantly know where you are. No matter where you threw it from, you could throw a grenade halfway across the map, and as soon as their partner falls asleep, then everybody knows exactly where you are. And to me, this makes no sense. And I'm not sure where the design for this came in, but aside from them having X-ray vision or eagle eyes, it's beyond frustrating. It's not like game breaking by any means, it does feel like punishment for not being sneaky. And when they see like a corner of your bootstrap and every enemy starts blindly firing in your direction, yeah, that gets annoying. It was enough for me to notice. Like, how do they know where I am after throwing a sleep grenade? But when there's a giant explosion from a sticky camera, they have no idea. It's so hit or miss, depending on whether the enemies will see you or not. It doesn't really make sense, and it adds a lot of frustration. You just have to know that if you use sticky cameras that explode, you're fine. If you use a sticky shocker, you're not. One of my other frustrations from the game comes from sometimes the camera is too close to Sam's big ol' head. Like, I felt like I wasn't fighting these inhuman NPCs with their Superman vision, then I was fighting the camera that it would either get stuck behind Sam in his head, or it would just zoom in so close and I couldn't see around the corner. But sometimes I felt like the mission failed and it wasn't my fault. So my final thoughts on the game after everything, I had an absolute blast with it. Yeah, the controls are a little bit awkward at first, some of the characters are paper thin, and I do wish the trust system was a little bit more fleshed out, but I still had a good time with it. The game had great spy tools, I wish I got to utilize them a little bit more, but scanning retinas or fingerprints for highly secure doors truly felt like I was acting out my espionage fantasy in real time. The story is told in a little bit of an awkward way. It feels as if I'm getting cliff notes from someone who played the game 20 years ago, and they're reciting from their foggy memory of the game, but it didn't detract from my enjoyment of the game. So here's a mission, do said mission, having a little sandbox of a level to explore and take out enemies how you see fit works for me. And I'm not really sure why I missed out on this one. I just think that after my experience with the first game, I was a little intimidated to go back and dive in, but I am so glad that I did. I'll definitely be looking into the other Splinter Cell games. I'm sure the Splinter Cell vets could give me some more tips or suggestions for the other games in the series, but apart from a few caveats, there's a great game here, especially from the 7th generation, worth checking out. It's a solid game and I would definitely recommend it. I'm Tay from Did I Save? Thanks for hanging out.